I'm really here just to introduce this and introduce our next speaker. I'm really excited about this. I've had the luxury of seeing this a few times in rehearsal, so I'm really looking forward to this. What you're going to see is nothing short of a reinvention of the web development framework and the Jade platform. As many of you will know, we've had web frameworks in the platform for a long time. I remember the early days. Who here still uses web forms? I know there's a few. Yep, there's some web. Yep, and actually we use them internally. I mean, web forms is a quick way of getting like administrative stuff up. I remember when we launched it, like it's almost one of those cases of where we're perhaps trying to push the end-to-end philosophy of Jade, further than the technology enabled at the time in the web. And I remember on that one we found feedback of that one quickly that people wanted to use natural web tools. A desktop UI is not the same as a web UI UX experience, right? I think we all know that now. And then quickly along after that we had the HTML docs framework. Who uses HTML docs here? No, not too many. Oh, wait till you see this next one. It was that basically solved the problem of enabling people to take advantage of the sort of web front end tools and then bring it into Jade and program the back end and in Jade to effectively serve up the pages. But again, it was using an older request response model. It was before we had lots of modern day session management, cookies, all the things that we have today. Sort of one pathway we've seen a lot of enterprises go down in particular is where they have established teams that are working right across the business, building, all of the web front end presence of the business is in, teams consolidated in that business. And for that, the REST APIs work really well. Okay, they just want back end systems opening up APIs. The web development is handled outside that. But there's always been, the feeling of, when you don't have that kind of architecture, how can you make basically building web UIs and integrating HTML into Jade really, really easy, and that's what you're going to see next. Carlin's going to do the demo, and it's lovely. When we started doing the rehearsals and things, and we go, Carlin, you need to introduce yourself. He'll go, hi, I'm Carlin, I work in the Object Manager, which he does. Back in the day, I worked in the Object Manager as well, but I was never as talented as Carlin. So he does work in the Object Manager, and it's really good that a foundational part of the platform is in such good hands. But what may surprise you is that a lot of us in this room, most of us in fact, are probably running low maths level library patches on our phones that have been done by Carlin. So he does a lot of things outside the Object Manager as well, and he also, I know, has contributed to web frameworks and almost historical languages, if you like Perl and that in the open source community. So he's great with web technologies and everything. And one of the lovely things about Carlin is he has this real appreciation for the Jade platform, a lot of what we've wanted to do for the philosophy of it. And I think it's when you get those combination of all those things coming together that add up to what you're going to see next. So with that, I'll hand over to Carlin, who works in the Object Manager. To Carlin. We'll have to do a little bit of plug and play, but Carlin's going to tell us what is Orb in a second. So bring your laptop over, Carlin. And we'll here we go. Let's flick the slide change. Oh, there's a clicker. Okay, right. Oh, there we go. Orb. It's called Orb, what he's about to show you. What is Orb? There we go. There's Carlin. Here we go.
Orb is an HTML over-the-wire web framework for the Jade platform. It is a native web framework for Jade that plays to the strength of the Jade platform. It has everything that you would expect from a modern web framework. It has an HTML templating engine to build HTML from provided assets. It has routing, which is how it responds to requests. It has modern, secure, persistent session handling, and it also does live updates. So every web framework at its core is trying to do one thing. It's trying to make HTML display in a web browser. But every framework has a different philosophy about how it gets to that goal. The main difference that you'll see is that there's client-side frameworks like React and Angular, which are client-side rendering. And then there is server-side rendering where the HTML is built up on the server and then it is sent to the client. So HTML over the wire sort of builds on server-side rendering. The idea is that when someone navigates to a page, the response is built up on the server, it's sent to the client displays that web page. But then when the client does something else, when the user clicks on a link, when the user submits a form, typically you don't need to be changing the entire page. You've got a structure to your page and there's only a little bit of content that needs to be changed. And so with HTML over the wire, you just update the bits of the page that are changing. Now, if this sounds at all familiar to anyone, well, did anyone do web development in the mid-2000s? Put your hands up. So, for years, this will probably sound familiar because Ajax is cool again. For those not familiar, Ajax is asynchronous JavaScript and XML. It was the earliest way of doing dynamic client-side updates for the web. The idea is that you would load the full page. Then when the user clicks a link or submits a form, instead of navigating the page, it would make a background request. The browser would make a request in the background. The server would then respond with XML that would tell the client, this is how you're going to update the page. And the client would do that update. This evolved into doing the same thing, essentially, but with JSON instead of XML. And then that evolved into rendering entire pages this way, but with your client-side frameworks. But now we've come full circle with HTML over the wire, but we're cutting out the middleman. Instead of requesting some XML or some JSON that tells the browser how to update the page, we just request the HTML that is the update to the page. This gets you a very fast first load and very fast updates. It's basically the development benefits of a single page application, but with none of the performance downsides. You don't have any loading screens for your web pages. So the reason that we've come full circle like this, HTML over the wire is a relatively new approach. The first framework that does use this concept only released in 2019. And the reason that we've had this revolution is that people have just figured out that web browsers are really, really good at rendering HTML. If you think about the billions of dollars of investment that Apple, Microsoft, Google, and Mozilla have poured into making the rendering engines render HTML as fast as physically possible. And HTML over the wire is leveraging that work. So there are some other HTML over the wire frameworks. We didn't make this up. There is Blazor server-side for .NET. There is Phoenix LiveView for Elixir. That's the first one that released in 2019. There is Hotwire for Ruby. Hotwire is created by the creators of the Rails framework, massively popular web framework for Ruby, and Hotwire has also become very popular in the Ruby ecosystem as well. And now we can add Orb for the Jade platform to this list. So now I have a bit of a demo. And Orb can do a lot of things, but the best way to demonstrate it is to just show you how to make an app using it. And we're going to do this live, because nothing ever goes wrong in demos. But my remote desktop has already disconnected, so there's the first thing that's gone wrong. Okay, so just in the interest of time, I have a very simple schema. This just sets up a very basic object model. Anyone who's done the first stage of the new Jade Academy course could make a schema like this in about 5 minutes. It just has. So the app we're going to be building is a chat application. So we have a chat message object representing messages. It's got a message property, and it's got a time property. We have just a controller object for attaching a persistent state to. It's got a collection of these chat message objects. And there's not really a whole lot else here. When the app starts up, we will create the first instance of our persistent controller object. That's all there is to this. So the first thing you might notice about Orb is that it's exported as a package. The idea is that you import the Orb class and interfaces into your schema. The Orb class only has type methods. The API is implemented entirely using type methods on the Orb class. So you don't need to create any additional objects. You just instruct Orb what to do by calling these type methods, and everything's handled under the covers for you. You can implement these interfaces that Orb provides on any class, a new class, or any existing class. So it works like this so that Orb works with however your system is currently architected. It doesn't need a particular schema hierarchy. It doesn't need a particular class hierarchy. It'll just work with however your system works with no disruption to your existing system. So I will show you this now by importing the orb package. Into our schema. So now we have the orb class, and there's the API, all type methods. And to call one of these methods, we just go orb at init. So this just tells orb that it needs to start up, that it will be handling requests for this app. So orb has a templating engine. This is for producing HTML from your data by combining your data with by combining your HTML templates with your data. The idea is that you create your own HTML outside of Jade using whatever tools that you want to use to do that. Type it up in Notepad. Does anyone use Dreamweaver anymore? However it is that you make HTML, you just do that outside of Jade. Orb does not care about where your HTML comes from, what it looks like. Your HTML can have directives in it that Orb will look for, and Orb will replace those with data from your system. You can transmute a Jade object with your template, and Orb will fill that data in from your template. In other languages, if you've used templating engines in other languages, it usually works that you would provide a parameter list to tell it this is what you're placing, or a dictionary of key value pairs to replace certain values with certain data. Orb just works from your Jade data model. It understands the Jade data model and pulls the data from your objects and outputs them into the HTML. And there's a simple HTML API for rendering HTML from Jade objects. So I'll show you this now. Just to save some typing, I have some templates. This is just a very simple HTML template for a main page. This is less than 40 lines of HTML. This is a message template. This will be used to format our messages. It's 4 lines of HTML. And we have a very simple style sheet. So there's no import step for bringing templates into Jade. You don't import them into your system. To add a template, you call the add HTML template method. You give your template a name and you specify its location. So it's done like this so that every time your app starts up, you will get the new assets from your file system. And this file system path could be Git repo, for example. And that's all we need to do to import our templates. So Orb, to answer requests using Orb, you use routes. A route is just any class that implements the route interface that Orb provides. This interface has 2 methods, execute and render. Execute is what it does, so that you can put your logic in there and keep it separate from what it will display. And render, which is what it's going to output to the browser. The render method just returns an HTML string, and that will be the HTML that gets displayed in the browser. The result of the render method will typically be the result of combining a HTML template with a Jade object. Then you can associate this route with an endpoint, so that if someone goes to a URL in their browser, such as /login or /accounts, that will invoke this will invoke one of those route classes, call that execute method, call that render method, and then display it in the browser. So I'll show you how to do that. So something you can do for convenience is you can create a base route class, and it doesn't actually matter that I spelled that wrong. And then you can implement the route interface on that class. And then your routes can be subclasses of that. So they'll just automatically inherit those interface methods that do nothing. So our main route will be the page that people see when they just visit our homepage. So all this is going to do is use the bind method. Bind is how you associate a route with a template with an object. And we're just going to bind it to the first instance of our persistent controller object. And that's all we need for our main route. And this is pretty typical. Just having one line of bind code in a render method is typically what you would have. If you didn't have one line, you'd probably have 5 lines. If, do something else, end if. And now that we've created our route, we can associate it with an endpoint with the add route method. We do get, we associate it with /, just the root path, and we pass in the main route class. And now we can create our app. Call our initialize method when it starts up. And hopefully, when I refresh, there we go. There's our app. But if I type something, nothing happens because we haven't set up a route for that. So some routes can act as triggers. These don't you don't navigate to these routes, they just respond to things in the background. They can respond to the user clicking on things or submitting a form. They don't navigate the page, but they can update the page. They can respond with some HTML to replace elements on the page. And properties are automatically populated from query and form data. So now we can add a route. To answer the request when somebody submits a message. So this will be our message route. That typo also doesn't matter. So we have a message property on a message route. This will be automatically filled in from post data. And now in our execute method, we're going to create a new chat message object, and we're just going to pass in the text that is submitted in the form. So our chat message just has a simple constructor that will set its properties up when it's created. And now we can add our message route. So this will be a post request to /message route. Nope, because I need to make the same typo I made before. There. Now when I run the app, so now when I submit this, now it looks like nothing has happened, just like before. But if I refresh the page, this has in the background made a request to our message route. The execute method's been called, it's created our object. So hopefully when I refresh the page, you'll be able to see that now you can see the message. But we can do a bit better than this, because Orb also can do live updates. So we could change our route to return some HTML, and that could update the page when the user clicks a button. But that's not going to help anyone else who's got the page open. So we'll use live updates to do it. The live updates lets you do asynchronously server-driven push updates to update what the client is displaying. To bring a page to life like this, you need one HTML attribute and one line of Jade code. And then you just do your Jade transactions as normal. Orb just works automatically from your Jade object model in response to the transactions that are happening in your system. So I'll show you this now. So in our main template, we have this line, data orb live. HTML5 lets you define these data attributes. These are attributes which have special meaning to your application. So we've called this one data orb live equals chat. This tells orb that this element should be brought to life, and it will be that this chat box element will be brought to life and display messages in response to updates. In our Jade code, the one line of Jade code is orb add live route. It was chat, so we type chat again there. The all messages collection from our persistent controller, we associate it with the message template, and we have two parameters for authentication, which we're not worrying about at the moment. So there is another way to, in this case, we know the collection that we care about when the app is starting up. It's just the persistent collection on the first instance of that object. If we didn't know the collection that we cared about, there is another way to do this to just the live update method, and you can pass in a collection at runtime. For example, if you needed to pick a specific collection from a specific user that you can only determine at runtime, it is possible to do that, and that's also just one line of code. So now that we've done that, when I run the app again, and refresh the page, now I get live updates automatically in response to the form being submitted. Now, this is showing up because I'm submitting the form. But if somebody else had this page open and they sent a message, that would also just appear without me needing to do anything. But since I'm the only one that has access to this app, you'll just all have to take my word for that. Or you could all scan this QR code on your phones and open this page. So now we have lots of messages. So if you look at my very first message here, okay, stop typing now. So if you look at my very first message, so I'm about to do a transaction that will change the message property on that first instance, and that updates automatically. So we can, that's also not going to work. So we can add things in, so when something is added to the collection, it will appear on the page, but we can also just update properties on messages, and they will automatically appear. And we can also, if we delete the first instance of the chat message, then my first message also gets deleted. So this is a Jade workspace. It has no concept of web clients or the web. Like a workspace doesn't know about any of that. It's just running Jade script. But Orb is seeing these transactions, and that is letting all the connected web clients know about the updates that they need to care about. So something else that you can do with Orb is, because all we need to do is change the front end, you can make front-end changes to your application without making any changes to the Jade system. So I've just replaced the HTML and CSS with some new assets. And now if you refresh the app, you might notice that we've been able to completely change the look and feel of the application just by changing the HTML and CSS. And some of you might also notice that this chat now looks just like the chat in the JV Summit app, that the business stream is actually using a lot more than the text stream is. And so the reason that that is possible is because it's the same HTML and CSS as is used in the Summit app. And that's possible because the JV Summit app is made with Orb. It is an Orb app made from the ground up with Orb. It's running in a Jade system in the cloud. That projector screen over there is also, that's just another page of the same app. So it's using the same data. It's using the same data just with a different front end. So just to explain a little bit about what's happening. So when a request comes in, your browser goes to Slash, an instance of the main route class gets created, because that's the route that's associated with Slash. Then our execute method is called. The execute method in this case does nothing, so nothing shows up. And then the render method gets called. The render method calls bind. Bind looks up the template. The templating engine finds the object, combines the object with the template, and then passes the result back, and then that is the result that is sent to the user. So the JV Summit app is also made with Orb, and it uses all of the concepts that I've just been talking about. It uses triggers, routes, all of that stuff. But it also uses some additional functionality. So it uses views. So views are just an abstraction around everything I've just talked about. You could manually set all of this up you want, just creating all the routes yourself. Views just make it really easy to create this type of application that has multiple different pages that they want to be displaying. It's essentially just a framework for handling the difference between when someone is loading a page for the first time and when they're just navigating to a new view within the same app. This gets you very fast navigation because we're just changing the bit that's being updated. So if I go to the Summit app, so you see each of these pages is a view. The map is a view, the chat is a view, the about page is a view, agenda is a view. And so that one's also disconnected. Nope. So this is the real production Jade system that the app is running on and that the business stream is actively using. So this is just the view controller. The view controller is any class that implements the view controller interface, and it provides three methods. It tells it this is the content to display, this is the template that our full page is wrapped in, and this is what we need to be updating when we change the page. So this is how it's able to handle when you click on the map, all we're changing is the content in the middle. We update which of the button in the bar is coloured, and we update the page title. But all the other HTML, all the boilerplate around the outside is all kept the same. The JV app uses sessions. So when you log in, you are persistently logged in. Orb has a simple API for handling sessions. Session start will start the session. When you start a session using Orb, you associate an object with Orb. So in the traditional web form sense, you would have the web session object, and you would put your data on there. In Orb, you give it any object from your system, and Orb will associate that object with that session. You can also specify an expiry and a timeout. So the expiry could be you want people to be able to stay logged in for 24 hours, but if they don't access a page within 15 minutes, they get logged out. The session data method is how you check if a user has an active session and how you retrieve the object that's associated with their session. You just call session data. If it returns true, then it will also have given you the object that you associated with that session when you created it. And there's also a session end to forcibly terminate a session if you want to do that. And our sessions are implemented using cookies with modern security, completely immune to XSS, using all the recommended security flags. So another feature that's used in the JV app is dynamic templates. So a dynamic template, I've talked about HTML templates. A dynamic template is essentially a class that acts as a template. So this lets you control what is being displayed using Jade code. And just a fun fact, the HTML templates that are internal to Orb are implemented as a dynamic template. The render method just returns the HTML string that they read when they started up. So in the app, in our chat, when anyone upvotes a message, the arrow turns green. So that's a dynamic template. The dynamic template finds who the current user is, says who the current user is, looks up have they liked this message or not, and if they have, it's green, and if they haven't, then it isn't, then it is left empty. You might also notice that when a message has upvotes, we display the number of upvotes next to it. But if a message doesn't have any upvotes, we don't put a 0 next to it because we didn't want people to feel bad about themselves. And so that's done with a dynamic template. It just looks up how many people have liked this message. Is it greater than 0? If yes, we display that number. If it's not, then we don't display anything. The agenda also makes... Where's my mouse gone? The agenda also makes significant use of dynamic templates. When something on the agenda ends, we replace it with an expired template. If you've rated something on the agenda, then it gets replaced with something telling you that you've rated that item already. So this is all done with dynamic templates. So I can show you some of the code in the real system. So this is just our arrow method. It uses the session data API to retrieve the current user, checks has this current user liked this message? If so, return a class that makes the arrow green. And there's the upvotes method that just checks, is the votes greater than 0? If yes, return that, otherwise return nothing. And the agenda template, so something else about the agenda that's also dynamic is we've got two different streams. We've got the business stream, we've got text stream. But if you look at the agenda on your phone, you can only see the text stream. Business stream can only see the business stream. But it's the same collection. You're just seeing different views of that same collection because the dynamic agenda template won't show you anything if it's showing you an object that's not from the stream that you're in. So the agenda template is just very typical use of a dynamic template where we're selecting between 3 different HTML templates to be displaying. And that's very typical. You can just think of the HTML templates as building blocks, and then dynamic templates are selecting which of those blocks are going to be displayed at any given time. So there's our diagram from before. And here is how it looks when we add dynamic templates into the mix. So everything is totally normal if we're just dealing with HTML. But if it's a dynamic template, then the render method on the dynamic template class is called. That code will be executed, it will do something. So in this example, it's selecting between, binding between two different templates. And so because that calls bind, that goes back up, and then it makes that determination again. If it's HTML, that's great, we can just return that to the client. But a dynamic template can also be recursive. A dynamic template can bind a dynamic template, and then this will happen over again. So hopefully, eventually, you'll be returning some HTML. And so the JV app does a lot more, but you'll be able to see all of this yourself, because along with the Jade Platform 2025 release, we will be releasing the full source code for the app. So you'll be able to see exactly how it works, and it will be able to serve as an example for you to build your own Orb applications. And something else is that we got a few requests throughout the day that people wanted a new feature in the app. So this is the live running app. So this is the assets for our app. This is a Git repo.
Carlin, is this production?
Yes, this is the real production app that the business stream are actively using. So we can do a Git pull, and maybe we can check if there's been any front-end updates. It looks like there has been. Yes, we have implemented a new feature. So, well, we've pulled that in, so we might as well do the update now.
I know Bowen was saying earlier, just execute and paste.
So these are the workers that are running the real app, and we're going to terminate all of them. So the app's just stopped working. And now all we have to do is restart the app. Sure hope that worked. So now if you look in your app and refresh the page, hopefully it will come back up. That's not the app, that's my app. Right, refresh JV app, you'll notice that we now have a slider in the top corner that changes between light and dark mode. So Orb is the new amazing way to make web experiences using the Jade platform. It makes things that were not possible before using the Jade platform very possible to do, things like live updates from data model. And it also makes things not only possible, but also very simple to do. So now, do we have any questions?
We've got a question over here. Come. I'm just going to hand it across. That's all right.
Still on? Perfect. Thanks. This looks amazing, by the way. Great work. Is this getting released with Jade 2025? Like when can I start playing with it, and who's going to teach me how to use it?
Yes, it will be released with Jade 2025.
And who's going to teach me how to use it? Is it going to be like, is that it? Is that all we get? Is it going to be like new? Is it going to be in Jade Academy? Is it going to be like, yeah, ask Jade. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Oh, thank you. That looks great. I can't wait to play with it.
Did I see a question this side of the room?
My question's been asked.
Oh, I see, of course. Fantastic. Good to see you, Pastor T.
Carlin, there was a point on the security that you used this lovely phrase, said we're immune from XSS. So in a security sense, like if we have people here wanted to use this to build an app, and put it up, and then one of their customers, I'm going to get an external pen tester in to pen test the surface. I mean, is it just XSS, or is like, if you build something with Orb, is it security bulletproof, not just XSS?
Yes.
Would you care to elaborate a little bit?
We use all the recommended security considerations. All the recommended headers are automatically set for you. Everything's just taken care of that for you internally under the hood.
Sounds like yes. Yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you.
So it's all automatically set. Can you modify all of that if you wanted to, if you needed to have different data set in terms of your headers and bits and pieces?
So what do you mean?
So in terms of, so you're saying you've got your best practices already set for you.
Oh, yeah.
If you wanted to add extra pieces as a default to it, would you need to implement that individually per app, or can you build that in yourself?
There's an add header method. You can add any headers you want to a response.
Anybody else with any queries, comments, congratulatory messages? No? Alrighty. Well, I'd like you all to. Yeah. That was excellent work. That was really, really good. Grace under pressure. Yeah, grace under pressure. And some really great ASMR moments of the typing. We all enjoyed that very much.
One comment, just to the question, yeah, I guess, about learning this, to Carlin's point, yeah, all of the code for that app will be released. Okay, yeah, so you have that. And then I think just, take it and dive in and dig around. If there's anything in there that's not enough, or you have further questions, then just come back to us. We want a lot of, again, dialing up what Sue and everyone was saying earlier, we want lots of collaboration around this. We really want people using it a lot. So take what we give you. If we're missing stuff, come back and talk to us and we'll improve it.
What else have you built? What else have you built in this?
The question is what else we've built in Orb.
You don't want to know about my one with Tessa. I've built very little. No, the focus of the whole company's really been on that app. I mean, Carlin's probably, how many other apps have you built, Carlin? Yeah. Or is it?
Proprietary.
Yeah.
Yes, I built a couple of chat applications.
Yeah.
I built a couple of chat applications. I built a notes application. I built a few just little things to test things out.
So I mean, this is this is very, very new, right? So yeah, it's really been the focus to get the conference app, but we'd love to see what the community would do with it, right? And this is another vehicle where lots of snippets and techniques, sharing it around. So please pick it up and try it and talk to us about it.
Oh, I've got another question. I'm coming.
Does it work through the old Jade HTTP IIS setup, or is it only direct?
Now I got to run back here. Who's answering this?
Carlin, definitely.
It only works through direct.